have heard about the shocking sex abuse lawsuit being leveled at WWE boss Vince McMahon by a former employee. The scandal couldn't come at a worse time as the WWE signed a massive $5 billion deal with Netflix.
For years, rumors have circulated about Vince McMahon's dark side. Now, the noose has gotten tighter as former WWE wrestlers have bravely stepped forward to share disturbing details of his alleged grooming tactics. Stay with us till the end of the video as we give you all the details on how WWE wrestlers open up about all the victims Vince McMahon groomed. Vince McMahon, WWE, sexual assault victims.
Again, starts talking about a $500,000 a year contract. Next thing I know, Vince McMahon is unzipping his pants.
In early 1992, a dark cloud settled over the then World Wrestling Federation, or WWF, owned by Titan Sports. This period, dubbed Titangate by wrestling insider publication Pro Wrestling Torch, saw the company grapple with a multitude of sexual misconduct allegations. These accusations followed hot on the heels of a brewing steroid abuse scandal that threatened to topple the entire industry. Initially, Vince McMahon seemed to avoid the brunt of the Titangate storm. However, this changed dramatically in April. Now it can be told, a tabloid news magazine television show hosted and produced by Geraldo Rivera aired a segment featuring former referee Rita Chatterton. Chatterton made a shocking accusation, alleging that McMahon had raped her in a limousine 6 years prior, in 1986. She elaborated further with even more details on Rivera's widely watched talk show a week later, placing Vince McMahon squarely at the center of the growing scandal.
I was forced into oral sex with Vince McMahon. When I couldn't complete his desires, he got really angry, started ripping off my jeans, pulled me on top of him.
In a harrowing account, Chatterton detailed the alleged assault. She claimed McMahon had lured her into his limousine, using the guise of a business meeting. Once inside the vehicle, the situation turned violent. Chatterton alleged McMahon had overpowered and assaulted her twice before callously invoking a previously mentioned company rule against fraternization to justify her termination. In a seemingly bizarre twist, McMahon retaliated by suing Chatterton, Geraldo Rivera, and the show's associates in February 1993. However, the lawsuit, which curiously focused on civil conspiracy rather than defamation, was ultimately dropped a year later. Chatterton would remain silent about the incident for a staggering 3 decades, leaving the public with only whispers and speculation about the truth behind the shocking allegations. The tide began to turn over 2 decades later. In June 2022, in an expose on McMahon's alleged sexual misconduct settlements, a bombshell dropped. It was a published interview with Rita Chatterton, the woman who had accused McMahon of assault in 1992. This time, Chatterton wasn't alone. The article introduced a new element. Leonard Inzitari, also known as Mario Mancini, a former wrestling trainee and friend of Chatterton from back in the day. Inzitari, acting as a crucial contemporaneous witness, corroborated Chatterton's claims. His words added a layer of credibility to her allegations. Inzitari's support, coupled with Chatterton's renewed voice, reignited the decades-old allegations against Vince McMahon. In that particular month, McMahon reached a resolution on the lawsuit concerning Chatterton, as confirmed by his attorney, who emphasized McMahon's assertion of innocence, but noted the decision to settle was driven by a desire to evade the expenses associated with legal proceedings. Individuals acquainted with the situation divulged that McMahon entered into a substantial settlement agreement with Chatterton, encompassing several $millions. Although the precise amount remains undisclosed to the public, it has been acknowledged that Chatterton pursued damages amounting to $11.75 million in her legal action against McMahon. In a tragic twist, a posthumous statement emerged from former WWE wrestler Ashley Massaro. Massaro, who passed away in 2019, had reportedly provided a sworn statement before her death, detailing accusations of sexual predation against Vince McMahon. The statement alleged that McMahon targeted not only her, but potentially other female wrestlers as well. The details surrounding the alleged incidents and the full scope of the accusations remain unclear, but Massaro's statement undoubtedly fueled a firestorm of controversy and forced a re-examination of the power dynamics within the WWE.
In 2006, WWE superstar Ashley Massaro was allegedly drugged and raped by multiple U.S. servicemen while on a trip to Kuwait.
A damning affidavit, previously unseen by the public, exploded onto the scene in 2023. The document originated from a 2017 lawsuit filed by Ashley Massaro's lawyers against WWE. The lawsuit focused on the company's handling of concussions, but a sworn affidavit by Massaro revealed a horrifying additional layer. Massaro, who tragically passed away in 2019, alleged she was drugged and raped during a 2006 WWE tour in Kuwait. The perpetrator, according to Massaro, posed as a military doctor. Further complicating the story, Massaro claimed Vince McMahon, upon learning about the incident, urged her silence to preserve WWE's ties to the military. While the affidavit itself didn't initially mention McMahon preying on female wrestlers, her lawyers reluctantly omitted that detail due to its lack of direct relevance to the concussion lawsuit. However, the implication hung heavy, raising serious questions about McMahon's conduct and the company's alleged culture. In a harrowing revelation from the unearthed Ashley Massaro affidavit, a pattern of alleged misconduct by Vince McMahon emerged. Massaro claimed that after refusing his late-night hotel room invitation, McMahon retaliated by writing promos designed to ruin her career. This wasn't an isolated incident, according to Massaro. She described a hostile work environment fostered by McMahon, filled with vulgar sexual comments whenever they crossed paths. These comments, she stated, were clearly designed to make her uncomfortable, painting a picture of a power dynamic heavily tilted in McMahon's favor. Massaro's claims, while not part of the original concussion lawsuit.
Wrestling fans and a community on Long Island are mourning the sudden death of a former star.
Yeah, Ashley Massaro was found dead inside her home in Suffolk County yesterday. She wrestled for WWE for 3 years after winning their Diva Search contest. She was just 39 years old, and police have not yet said how she died.
The tragedy of Ashley Massaro's story extends far beyond the horrific assault she described. The 39-year-old wrestler who competed for WWE from 2005 to 2008 died by suicide in May 2019. Following her passing, WWE maintained that neither Vince McMahon nor upper management were ever informed of the alleged rape by the military imposter. However, a recent twist emerged when Edward Brennan, lawyer for former WWE executive John Laurinaitis, who is also facing sexual assault allegations, contradicted this statement. Brennan admitted that upper management, including Laurinaitis, was indeed aware of the allegation. Despite this revelation, Laurinaitis claimed proper protocols were followed and denied any cover-up. Further muddying the waters, it was reported that the Naval Criminal Investigative Service launched an investigation into Massaro's claim in June 2019, shortly after her death. This investigation was closed in January 2020, but details regarding its findings remain shrouded in secrecy. In the summer of 2022, an article detailing multiple hush-money settlements McMahon had allegedly made with women accusing him of sexual misconduct. This public pressure, fueled by a scandal far bigger than the case of a single paralegal, culminated in a dramatic resignation. On July 22, 2022, Vince McMahon stepped down from all WWE leadership positions. However, his absence from the company proved temporary. By January 6, 2023, McMahon had clawed his way back onto the WWE board, eventually ascending to the role of executive chairman of both WWE and the newly merged TKO Group Holdings, a union that included UFC. This return to power would be short-lived. On January 25, 2024, the aforementioned paralegal, now identified as Janelle Grant, shattered McMahon's fragile hold on leadership. Grant filed a civil lawsuit against McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE, leveling serious accusations of physical and emotional abuse, sexual assault, and trafficking. This explosive lawsuit would ultimately force McMahon out for good. The lawsuit, filed in January 2024 by Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee, ripped the lid off a pattern of alleged misconduct by Vince McMahon. The 67-page complaint, coupled with fresh investigative reporting from the Wall Street Journal, painted a frightening picture. Grant claimed McMahon targeted her in March 2019, a period of emotional and financial vulnerability for her. He allegedly exploited her job search desperation, initially befriending her before crossing professional boundaries and pressuring her into a physical relationship as the price of employment with WWE. Though Grant did secure a legal department position in June 2019, the nightmare continued. Less than a year later, McMahon allegedly weaponized her privacy by sharing explicit photos and videos with powerful figures within and outside WWE, including Brock Lesnar, a wrestler McMahon was courting for a new contract. The lawsuit further alleged McMahon instilled a culture of fear, warning Grant early on that he had world-class legal resources on speed dial to silence anyone who caused him trouble. These accusations, coupled with the Wall Street Journal's reporting, would ultimately force McMahon's permanent resignation from WWE. The depths of alleged abuse detailed in Janelle Grant's lawsuit were nothing short of horrifying. The document, a damning indictment of Vince McMahon's conduct, painted a picture of a power dynamic dynamic so lopsided that coercion became an unspoken rule. Given McMahon's omnipotent position at WWE, the lawsuit affirmed coercion was inherent in his increasingly depraved sexual demands. Grant alleged a systematic pattern of exploitation. While McMahon served as CEO and she as a lowly legal department coordinator, he allegedly pressured her into sexual encounters, not just with him, but potentially with others as well. The lawsuit further claimed McMahon directed her to visit John Laurinaitis, another WWE executive, for sexual encounters before work even began. He allegedly expected and even demanded sexual activity at the WWE headquarters, even during working hours. The lawsuit against Vince McMahon by Janelle Grant wasn't merely about sexual harassment. It painted a horrifying picture of alleged systematic control. Grant claimed McMahon embarked on a campaign to isolate her, severing her from friends and chipping away at her identity to mold her into someone subservient to his desires. The document detailed a troubling power dynamic, where McMahon allegedly wielded complete ownership and control over both her personal and professional life. The alleged abuse reportedly reached a nightmarish level, with Grant claiming she was subjected to extreme cruelty and degradation that forced her to disassociate to cope with the trauma. These accusations were bolstered by text message screenshots, allegedly between Grant and McMahon, revealing the deviant nature of his sexual fantasies, according to multiple sources. The lawsuit further escalated when it alleged a brutal assault in June 2021, claiming McMahon and John Laurinaitis sexually assaulted Miss Grant inside Laurinaitis' office while colleagues worked obliviously nearby. The lawsuit revealed a shocking twist: the alleged motive behind Grant's dismissal in January 2022, just months before the expose that would topple McMahon. According to the complaint, Linda McMahon, Vince's wife, discovered the affair. The fallout was swift and brutal. Grant claimed McMahon pressured her into an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, demanding silence in exchange for a hefty $3 million payout. However, this alleged golden cage came with a rusty lock. After a single $1 million installment, the payments abruptly stopped. This broken promise, coupled with the ongoing emotional and psychological torment, ultimately led Grant to break free from the alleged web of control McMahon had spun around her. She filed the lawsuit in January 2024, seeking not only financial compensation but also a public reckoning for the trauma she endured. But far from being the only allegations against McMahon, other revelations concerning his behavior have come to light. Other sexual assault cases involving McMahon. Remember we mentioned the Titan Gate scandal earlier? Well, at the heart of the scandal were Pat Patterson, the head of wrestling operations, and his right-hand man Terry Garvin. Mel Phillips, a ring announcer who also oversaw the ring crew and reported directly to Garvin, was also implicated. Disturbing allegations emerged, painting a picture of a casting couch culture allegedly fostered by Patterson and Garvin. These accusations suggested that male wrestlers and other personnel were pressured into sexual acts in exchange for career opportunities within the WWF. Phillips on his own was enabled by this to bring in underage day laborers on his crew Azuring boys, who he would then groom and molest. In the face of the mounting scandal, all three men, Patterson, Garvin, and Phillips, resigned from the WWF. While WWE initially maintained that Phillips was suspended before his departure, the damage was done. Ultimately, only Patterson would return to the company, likely due to his perceived higher value as head of wrestling operations. Further complicating the narrative, some of the early accusations were undermined. Murray Hodgson, who claimed he was fired for refusing unwanted advances, was later labeled a lifelong con man by his own lawyer. Similarly, superstar Billy Graham recanted his claim of witnessing Patterson inappropriately touching a young boy. These developments, however, cast a long shadow over other, more credible allegations, such as those made by former ring boy Tom Cole. Ultimately, Garvin faded from public view while Patterson returned to a position of power. Just before the allegations became public, Vince McMahon himself revealed a troubling detail. McMahon admitted to previously firing Mel Phillips due to suspicions about Phillips's peculiar and unnatural behavior around young boys. However, McMahon bafflingly rehired Phillips weeks later. Adding fuel to the fire, McMahon later sued a news media outlet for defamation over other parts of an article detailing his revelations. In a shocking twist unearthed in 2020, Freedom of Information Act requests revealed Vince and Linda McMahon's awareness of the allegations against Mel Phillips. Court records from the Ring Boy scandal exposed sworn testimony from Vince himself, admitting knowledge of Phillips' peculiar and unnatural interest in children. Despite this unsettling truth, Vince took no action, merely demanding a hollow promise from Phillips to stop chasing after kids upon his 1988 rehire. This revelation wasn't the only evidence. Business Insider further reported that under the McMahon's alleged directive, the WWF launched a smear campaign against Tom Cole, who passed away in February 2021. He was one of the young victims who dared to speak out about Phillips's abuse. They attempted to discredit both him and his family. In a desperate attempt attempt at damage control, Vince McMahon's attorney Jerry McDevitt issued a bizarre response. McDevitt downplayed the seriousness of the allegations against Mel Phillips, claiming they stemmed from an unusual foot fetish rather than anything approximating conventional forms of sexual abuse. This explanation, widely ridiculed for its absurdity, did little to quell the growing public outrage. Perhaps even more disturbing was McDevitt's characterization of the accusations against the McMahons as outlandish libel. Sworn testimony clearly contradicted this narrative, revealing Vince McMahon's knowledge of Phillips's peculiar and unnatural interest in children. The McMahons' alleged decision to rehire Phillips under the condition of merely stopping him from chasing after kids further strained credulity. A decade of relative quiet followed the messy events of Titangate. Then, in January 2006, on the very weekend of the Royal Rumble, a new storm brewed for Vince McMahon. While basking in the Florida sunshine at his seasonal residence in Boca Raton, McMahon decided to top up his tan at a local tanning salon called Tanzabar in preparation for one of wrestling's biggest events. This seemingly innocuous decision would soon escalate into a fresh wave of controversy. An employee at the salon would later file a police report accusing McMahon of showing her unsolicited nude photos of himself before forcibly groping her. According to the report, when the employee managed to escape the assault, McMahon allegedly dismissed it as a mere attempt to have some fun. News of the incident broke just days later via the Palm Beach Post. While Vince's wife Linda vehemently denied the claims as totally bizarre, his daughter Stephanie confirmed that he was a regular customer at Tanzabar. The Tanzabar incident, initially reported in 2006, seemed to vanish into obscurity after Vince McMahon wasn't charged. However, the story refused to stay buried. A follow-up article a month later revealed the lack of charges, but the narrative remained dormant for over a decade. Then, in January 2018, reporters unearthed the original police report, bringing the incident back into the spotlight. This new investigation revealed that while prosecutors declined to press charges due to a higher charging standard, the police themselves believed there was probable cause for an arrest. Just days after that revelation, another report surfaced featuring an eyewitness account. This individual, named in the police report, claimed to have witnessed McMahon staring menacingly at the accuser and himself from his car for 45 minutes before the police arrived. A December 13, 2022 expose dropped a double whammy on Vince McMahon. The article, which detailed a hush money payment to wrestler Rita Chatterton, also unearthed a previously unknown allegation. A spa manager claimed a horrific assault by McMahon in 2011. While working at a luxury Southern California resort, she alleged McMahon sexually assaulted her. The incident reportedly left her traumatized, and she confided in her husband. Fueled by outrage, her husband stormed a WWE event, baseball bat in hand, intent on confronting McMahon. Security, however, denied him entry. It was reported that the woman informed her employer about the incident, further specifying that McMahon's presence correlated with a WWE event. This detail aligned with two major events held in Southern California that year: the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view tapings and the SummerSlam extravaganza, both followed by Raw and SmackDown recordings. The alleged victim's lawyer reportedly contacted McMahon's legal team in July 2022, ultimately filing a lawsuit against McMahon in December of that year. A financial earthquake struck WWE in April 2022 when the board, still under Vince McMahon's control, launched an investigation into a hefty $3 million hush money settlement. This probe centered on an alleged affair between McMahon and a former employee. The dominoes began to fall rapidly. The company, known as World Wrestling Entertainment, publicly disclosed an additional $5 million in payments reportedly made by McMahon himself. This disclosure forced a delay in their earnings report, adding further fuel to the fire. This news came on the heels of a previous revelation: a staggering $14.6 million in unrecorded expenses linked to McMahon. The icing on this very unpleasant cake: McMahon's abrupt retirement from the company. A major news source reported that these hush payments were under intense scrutiny by both federal prosecutors and the Securities and Exchange Commission. In its submission, WWE clarified that the recently unveiled payments disbursed by McMahon in 2007 and 2009 are distinct from the allegations of misconduct levied against him. The board supervised an autonomous inquiry into the preceding payments and accusations. This scrutiny unearthed additional non-disclosure agreements concerning misconduct allegations by other female employees directed at McMahon and executive John Laurinaitis, amounting to $12 million. By October 2022, WWE had revealed $19.6 million in unreported payments made by McMahon to resolve sexual misconduct claims spanning from 2006 to 2022. It was not only the WWE board that was investigating McMahon. Federal authorities in New York launched a full-scale investigation into a web of allegations, sexual assault, and sex trafficking. The investigation stemmed from a grand jury subpoena, with federal agents executing a search warrant for McMahon's McMahon's phone and demanding documents related to any instance of rape, sex trafficking, sexual assault, commercial sex transactions, harassment or discrimination against current or former WWE employees. The list of alleged victims was long and alarming. It included a WWE contractor subjected to unsolicited nude photos and harassment, a wrestler coerced into oral sex, a former referee who reportedly received a multi-million-dollar settlement after an assault allegation, a spa manager claiming assault at a resort, and a former employee demoted after refusing sexual advances from a talent relations executive. Who is Vince McMahon? Now, before these sexual allegations and claims of grooming, Vince McMahon's story begins not in the glitz of professional wrestling, but in the quiet town of Pinehurst, North Carolina. Born on August 24, 1945, to Victoria Hanner and Vincent James McMahon, his early life was marked by a fractured family. His father, Vincent Sr., left the family when Vince was just a baby, taking his older brother Roderick with him. Vince wouldn't see his father again until the age of 12. Despite this rocky start, wrestling was ingrained in Vince's blood. His grandfather, Roderick James Jess McMahon, was a successful boxing promoter, carrying the torch of a family legacy that would eventually be passed down to Vince himself. Growing up, McMahon, then known as Vinnie Lupton, navigated a rocky upbringing marked by frequent changes in residence, primarily residing with his mother and various stepfathers. Reflecting on his childhood, McMahon revealed the distressing reality of witnessing his mother endure abuse at the hands of one stepfather, Leo Lupton, who also targeted McMahon when he intervened to protect her. Despite facing challenges, McMahon graduated from Fishburne Military School in Waynesboro, Virginia in 1964, overcoming obstacles like dyslexia along the way. A twist of fate intertwined Vince McMahon's personal and professional lives. In 1966, at a New Bern, North Carolina church, 16-year-old Vinnie Lupton, as he was known then, met 13-year-old Linda Edwards. Introduced by his mother, this chance encounter would blossom into a lifelong partnership. They married in 1966, and Linda would become Vince's rock as he navigated the messy world of professional wrestling. Together, they would build a business empire, with Linda serving as CEO of Titan Sports Inc., later renamed WWE, from 1997 to 2009. The McMahon family dynasty extends beyond the world of professional wrestling. Vince and Linda McMahon, who met in their teenage years, have built a legacy together. Their union produced 2 children who would become instrumental figures in the WWE universe. Shane McMahon, known for his high-flying antics, has had a well-publicized on-again, off-again relationship with the company, leaving in 2010 before returning in 2016. His sister Stephanie McMahon Levesque carved her own path, holding various backstage roles and even appearing on screen throughout the 1990s. She stepped down from her active role in 2023. The McMahon legacy extends to the next generation as well. Shane has 3 sons with his wife Marissa Mazzola, while Stephanie and her husband Paul Levesque, also known as Triple H, have 3 daughters. With 6 grandchildren, the McMahon family tree is firmly rooted in the world of wrestling entertainment. By 2006, Vince McMahon boasted an impressive array of properties, including a lavish $12 million penthouse nestled in Manhattan, New York, and a sprawling $40 million mansion nestled in Greenwich, Connecticut. Additionally, he owned a luxurious $20 million vacation retreat and commanded a majestic 47-foot sports yacht christened Sexy B. Despite fluctuations, his wealth surged to a staggering $1.1 billion, affirming WWE's declaration of his billionaire status in 2001. Although briefly absent from the billionaire ranks between 2002 and 2013, McMahon's financial resurgence was evident, with his net worth soaring to an estimated $3.6 billion in 2018. Vince McMahon's destiny took a dramatic turn at the age of 12. This was the year he reconnected with the father who had abandoned him in infancy. This pivotal meeting, orchestrated by the wrestling promoter Capital Wrestling Corporation, or CWC, wasn't just a family reunion. It ignited a passion within young Vince. Witnessing his father, Vincent J. McMahon, navigate the world of professional wrestling sparked a fire in Vince's soul. He craved a role in this electrifying spectacle, initially envisioning himself as a wrestler. However, his father, a seasoned promoter, had other plans. He explained the crucial separation between promoters and wrestlers, urging Vince to stay behind the scenes and orchestrate the action, not participate in it. Though his dream of in-ring competition was dashed, the seeds of a future wrestling empire were firmly planted in Vince McMahon's mind. Vince McMahon's journey to wrestling mogul wasn't an overnight leap. After graduating with a business degree from East Carolina University in 1968, he embarked on a seemingly unrelated path as a traveling salesman. However, his sights were firmly set on the world his father, Vincent J. McMahon, had built, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, or WWF. Itching to contribute, Vince took his first steps into the squared circle in 1969, not as a wrestler, but as a ring announcer for the WWF's All-Star Wrestling. His ambition didn't stop there. In 1971, he was entrusted with promoting his first card in a small main territory. This same year, he transitioned to the role of play-by-play commentator, replacing Ray Morgan. For the next 26 years, his voice would become synonymous with the booming energy of professional wrestling, all the while meticulously learning the industry from the broadcast booth. This period of hands-on experience, both behind the scenes and in front of the audience, would prove invaluable as Vince McMahon plotted his course to revolutionize the wrestling world. In the 1970s, Vince McMahon rose to prominence within his father's wrestling empire. Over the next decade, he wasn't just a successor, but a driving force behind the company's explosive growth. McMahon spearheaded a strategic expansion of television syndication, tripling their reach and bringing wrestling entertainment to a wider audience than ever before. His influence wasn't limited to behind the scenes either. McMahon championed the legendary 1976 bout between boxing great Muhammad Ali and Japanese wrestler Antonio Inoki, a spectacle that further solidified the company's place in pop culture history. By 1979, his vision and ambition led him to spearhead the company's renaming to the World Wrestling Federation, or WWF, a move that marked a new era in professional wrestling. In February 1980, Vince McMahon took a bold step by establishing Titan Sports, a new company poised to revolutionize professional wrestling. The fledgling organization set up its headquarters in an unlikely location, South Yarmouth, Massachusetts. The company even used the now defunct Cape Cod Coliseum as its operational center, evidence of McMahon's resourcefulness in the early days. With a clear vision for the future, McMahon assumed the leadership role as chairman, while his wife, Linda, became his co-pilot as the co-chief executive. This marked the beginning of a dynamic partnership that would propel Titan Sports to new heights. By 1982, Titan Sports had strategically acquired control of the CWC from Vince's ailing father. Sadly, his father passed away in May 1984. The acquisition of CWC proved to be a pivotal moment, as it provided Titan Sports with a strong foundation for future growth. The early 1990s proved to be a turbulent time for Vince McMahon's wrestling empire. Dubbed the New Generation era, it was a period of experimentation as the company grappled with fluctuating business fortunes and various internal projects. Facing stiff competition from Ted Turner's WCW, McMahon knew drastic action was needed. However, by the late 90s, he'd orchestrated a masterful comeback, solidifying the WWF as the undisputed wrestling king. Sensing a shift in audience preferences, McMahon made a calculated gamble. He steered storylines away from the family-friendly approach, catering instead to a more mature demographic. This bold move, christened the WWF Attitude Era, began with a bang with the infamous Montreal Screwjob, where the WWF Championship was controversially taken from Bret Hart. This marked a turning point. McMahon, previously a background figure, transformed into the tyrannical Mr. McMahon. He became embroiled in a legendary feud with the rebellious Stone Cold, Steve Austin, who embodied the new, defiant spirit of the era. The on-screen drama resonated with audiences, propelling WWF back into the national spotlight. Weekly Monday Night Raw broadcasts became cultural phenomena, consistently topping cable television ratings. Capitalizing on the era's success, the company embraced a more edgy aesthetic. Foul language, simulated violence, and controversial match types like bra and panties became hallmarks of the Attitude Era. This daring strategy, along with a successful initial public offering in 1999, cemented the WWF's dominance in the world of professional wrestling. McMahon voluntarily relinquished his roles as chairman and CEO of WWE on June 17, 2022, amidst an internal probe. His daughter, Stephanie McMahon, assumed interim leadership. Despite stepping down, McMahon retained oversight of WWE's creative and content endeavors. In July 2022, he formally retired, appointing Stephanie as the permanent chairwoman and co-CEO alongside Nick Khan. Triple H assumed leadership of WWE Creative. In January 2023, McMahon's potential return to WWE as executive chairman was announced, alongside the exploration of a company sale. He assumed the role on January 10th. However, amidst allegations and a merger announcement with UFC, McMahon resigned from TKO in January 2024, followed by stock sales in March 2024. McMahon may have departed from WWE and the wrestling world, but the effect of his actions will continue to echo throughout the sport. But what are your thoughts regarding the allegations against him? Tell us in the comments section. Also, to watch more videos with equally entertaining content, click on one of the cards appearing on your screen now.